I bought a new home, but my obese neighbor illegally parked in my driveway. I think I wasn't wrong to tow her car and install a locked fence. Story 1. Am I the asshole for not allowing my disabled neighbor to park in my driveway and get her car towed despite the previous owner allowing it? I bought a house a few months ago and moved in last month. The previous owner was a friendly old man that could no longer live alone, so he decided to sell and move in with his daughter. Just to be clear, I put disabled in quotation marks because the lady in question is just really overweight, and I'm not sure if that counts as disabled. Now, apparently, he had been allowing use of his driveway to his disabled neighbor lady, largely because street parking is extremely limited, and what little street parking there is pretty much instantly occupied. What I am saying is, unless you have a driveway, you end up having to park a good 5-minute walk away, and that is the best case scenario. Obviously, I was unaware of this, so I was surprised to see a large SUV parked in my driveway when I moved in. I ended up having to knock on several doors, asking whose car it was because the movers could not stand still on the busy road too long. I figured it was the neighbor's car, so after a good 10 minutes of knocking, an extremely angry, enormous lady opened the door. I told her to move the car, and she immediately started arguing that the neighbor said it was fine. I told her he moved out, I moved in, and no, it's not fine, and to move it because the movers need to unload my stuff. She begrudgingly did. I ended up seeing her walking back half an hour later, completely wet with sweat. Now, a few days later, I went back to work, and lo and behold, the SUV is parked in my driveway again. I go over there again, spend 20 minutes knocking on the door before this lady opens the door, again visibly angry. I tell her to move her car. My driveway is not public parking. She protests, saying her ankles can't take walking the distance and claims I can easily walk. I tell her, while that might be true, it's my goddamn driveway, and I want to park there myself. Again, she moves her car. Again, I spot her half an hour later, drenched in sweat, making her way home. Well, it happened again a week ago, and this time, she would not open her door. I got tired of it and had her SUV towed. She, of course, came to my house to scream at me. I told her to get the hell off my property. A few days later, I had a small fence installed with a lock on it to make sure it did not happen again. I've since been getting dirty looks from her and one other neighbor. When I told my mom, she told me I should be nicer to people. I do feel sort of bad too. She clearly struggles with the walk after all. Now, as far as I understand it, and I might be wrong here, so please do call me out if I'm wrong. I'm always happy to be educated here. But I don't believe that obesity is a disability in itself. Obviously, it can cause other complications that will cause disabilities in some form or another, right? But I don't think obesity in itself is classed as a disability. But as I said, I'm not totally sure on that. But you were nice the first time it happened. Then you explained it the second time. Why is she doing it a second time? She was asking me the first time, surely it's not going to be okay the second time. And then there's a third time too. If that person came around to you, explained the situation, and said, "Look, is there any way you can help me out? Is there any possibility?" You might feel more inclined to feel a bit bad for her, but she just felt entitled to your space that you pay for. So, you're not the asshole in this situation just because of that, really. But let's have a look at the comments below to see what they say. Puppies Forprez says, not the asshole, plain and simple. She should get a handicap spot designated for her if it really is that much of an issue. Telmanob says, not the asshole. You bought a house with the driveway, it's yours. If she's truly disabled, she can contact the city to have them designate a handicapped parking spot. If she had handicap tags, she can use that, otherwise, she's trespassing. Northern Lit Up says, not the asshole. This is your house and your driveway. You asked her several times nicely, but she ignored you. Her situation is not your fault and not your problem to solve. Ron Swanson says, you were nice the first time it happened. The second time it happened, you were under no obligation to continue being nice. The third time it happened, she knew good and damn well what she was doing and still did it anyway. I'd have that car towed too, not the asshole. Now, what would you do in that situation? Would you have the car towed, or would you go around and explain to her, shout out to her, or would you talk to her? Maybe let her stay on your driveway? I don't know. What would you do in this situation? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for Story 1. Story 2. Am I the asshole for telling my sister she can F off if she thinks my marriage is problematic? Apparently, she felt this way for a while but never told me or tried to talk about it until she blew up on me recently. So basically, I write software for a subsidiary of a big-ish West Coast software company. It pays great, same wages they pay their West Coast employees, but in the Midwest office. So my wife doesn't need to have a job. Instead, she volunteers roughly 16 hours a week at the local pet shelter. She's also a Brazilian immigrant. Go ahead, make the joke about the tech nerd marrying an immigrant that becomes a housewife. That's what got us into this pickle. Sis is convinced I actively sought out an immigrant, using money to coerce her to marry because she'd be more submissive, easier to control, and into a housewife that won't challenge me out of fear of going destitute. In reality, my wife is one of the most strong-willed women I've met. That's part of what made me attracted to her in the first place. And I honestly don't know if housewife is even the right word to describe my wife, given she basically works part-time at the animal shelter, but for free because we can afford it. If she was getting paid to do the same volunteer work she already is, she wouldn't be labeled as a housewife like Sis is trying to push on her now. She does about 2/3 of the housework, but she's also home a lot more. I do the bulk of the cooking though, since frankly, I'm better at it, and it benefits us both if I do more. Recently, my mom had to have surgery. Since Dad already passed away a few years ago, my mom lives alone now. My wife decided she's going to Mom's house every day and help out how she could and make sure she was okay. I go at least every other day after work to help too. Sis only goes to see Mom on the weekends, but she does work more hours than I do, so she's got to take care of herself too. A couple of days ago, I got a call from Sis, and she started screaming at me as soon as I answered, saying how she knew I had problematic views on women and marriage, but she wasn't going to stay quiet any longer now that she thinks I'm using them to gain Mom's favor. Going on about how she's disappointed in me, feels sorry for my wife and whatever kids we have now. She can't believe her own brother turned into just another sexist tech bro. I told her I disagreed and felt my marriage was a fairly equal partnership, but if she was intent on talking, she could F off and stay out of our lives then. I haven't heard from her since then. My mom and wife are on my side, but a few of my friends I've vented to say she had a point, so I don't know. Am I the asshole? And I feel like in some ways we're missing some parts out of this story. Somewhere along the line, we're missing bits of info here and there, but I don't get it. If a couple is in love and they're happy in love, like these two seem to be making out they are, then what is the issue? I don't see why this system's got this big issue with it. All I can say in this story is that the sister seems to be the one with the issue here, not anyone else. What is her problem? They seem to be a happy enough couple. She's doing volunteer work at the pet shelter, and he's working full-time, and they're very happy in what they do. So what is the issue? That. It seems like we're missing little bits of information here or something. But based on this story, I can't say you're the asshole just because of that. But we'll have a look straight at the comments to see if they got anything else to give us. Tsunami says, not the asshole. Your sister needs to chill. If you and your wife are both happy, you don't exhibit sexist, chauvinistic views against her or other women, then what leg can your sister possibly be standing on? Your wife is absolutely allowed to be the housewife if she's happy that way. The fact that many women are ashamed of this shocked me, considering true feminism and supporting women in whatever life they choose. Glad to hear your wife is able to spend time volunteering at something she loves. I'm sure the shelter appreciates their time and help, especially since that means they can spend more money on the animals in their care. Side note, not a stereotype, but a Brazilian woman being submissive? LOL, not sure that word is in the Brazilian handbook. Ayaki says, not the asshole. Who is saying she has a point anyway? She's caught you screaming because your wife has been helping your mom? Does your sister have emotional issues? Your marriage sounds fine. If you and your wife agree on how you want to live your lives, everyone else can kick rocks. That saying again, it's either kick dirt or kick rocks. I love it. Faceless says not the asshole, but something about your sister assuming all immigrants who marry white guys are submissive and scared is kind of gross. It seems she has more of an overall problem with you marrying an immigrant than anything else. And now I turn this one to you guys. What do you guys think of the story? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for Story 2. Story 3. Would I be the asshole if I reported my doctor? Hi all, I'm pretty conflicted about this. I need an outside opinion. I just turned 18, 2 weeks ago, and had a doctor's appointment yesterday. I went with my mom and little sister, but drove separately because I had a class right after. This is relevant to the story. Now, when we went to the front desk to check in, the woman there asked me if I wanted to sign a form that allowed my mom to see my medical records from now on. I said no, I would think on it. I was going to say no either way, but I felt uncomfortable saying that with my mom standing right next to me. I went into the exam room alone and everything went fine. Then my doctor came in to go over some things with me. The doctor has been seeing me and my 2 younger siblings since we were babies and knows my mom well. This doctor has always annoyed me because she always gets on my case about my weight, saying I'm too skinny and accusing me of not eating. When she came in yesterday, asking me for some follow-up questions, she abruptly left the room, said she needed to ask my mom if she wanted me to get a flu shot. I was sitting on the exam table, dumbfounded. I'm 18. Isn't this my decision to make? She came back and said my mom had said yes to the flu shot. I got it. Then the nurse handed me my papers, and I went home. My mom and sister got back. Mom said that she told the doctor that was my decision to get the flu shot. I was going to say yes, of course, but she didn't even ask me, only my mom, and that the doctor told her that I'd asked her to ask my mom. That's absolutely not true. My mom also told me that the doctor said she wasn't supposed to tell my mom, but she told her details about my checkup, saying I was fine with it, which of course I was not. I never gave them permission to do that. I know this whole thing seems small, but I'm worried that it will compromise my visits to the doctor in the future. My parents, especially my mom, are kind of strict, and there are some things I just want to stay private. How can I trust my doctor if I feel I have to lie to her so I won't get in trouble with my parents? I don't want to lie to my doctor, especially about serious things. Is this some sort of violation? Info: she's a pediatrician. I won't be seeing her much longer anyway. But now I want to see what can be done about this. Edit: for those asking, my mom was not in the room with me. The doctor said, walking out, saying she was going to ask my mom. I didn't have a chance to stop her. Also, I didn't sign any papers, to those who mentioned that, though I'm not sure if that makes a difference. Thank you to all those who've given me the advice on this. Edit 2: I'm hesitant on this because she's been my doctor for so many years. She may have done it out of force of habit. The thing that doesn't sit right with me is she told my mom that I asked her to check with my mom when I didn't at all. Edit 3: for those asking why I went with my mom, my sister had an appointment at the same time as me, and she's a minor, so she needed my mom to be there with her. As I mentioned, I was in the exam room alone, and the appointment went totally fine, other than asking my mom about the flu shot and her telling my mom about my appointment after I left to go home. You know, we had a post recently about HIPAA violations, and people in the comments were absolutely raging, saying, oh, what a violation this is. This is huge. It's not just a small thing. This is absolutely massive. And they've broken huge violations by doing that, by breaking patients' trust like that. And the doctor would get in serious trouble. So reporting them, would probably be the right thing to do, because are they doing this to multiple people? I'm not sure if I would personally do that for this particular situation. I'd maybe bring it up with a doctor myself, but that's just me, and I would probably be totally wrong for not reporting it. But personally, myself, I'd have to say to them, look, I don't want you talking about my personal problems to anyone else, so please stop that. And then maybe even mention that yes, I get HIPAA violation, and you do know that, so you need to stop that right now. And I'm someone who likes to give someone a little chance every once in a while, and I know it's a huge violation, and I shouldn't be doing that. I should slap myself on the wrist, I'll do it now. But that would be me. But from the last post we were talking about, people were saying, like, you should report that immediately. So I can't say you would be the asshole if you did report them just because of that, because what they've done is wrong, not you. So let's go to the comments below and see what they say. Sauteed Dunyan says, not the asshole. This is a flagrant HIPAA violation. The situation right here is precisely one of the reasons HIPAA exists at all. Howard Project says, not the asshole. You absolutely need to report this because it's one of the reasons that teenagers tend to walk away from medical care. They find that they can't trust a doctor they have known for many years and wind up not trusting doctors in general for avoiding medical care. If it has to go through their parents' health insurance because they're afraid that any doctor will do what this doctor did, you have the right to keep your healthcare information private. You have the right to make your own medical decisions. Report this. Final Commission says, not the asshole. Report her now, both to the clinic and the relevant licensing board, and get a new doctor ASAP. Don't see this one again unless you have no other choice. And even exchange practices if it's a mixed specialty one. Not the asshole. Find a new doctor ASAP. I'm not sure what, if anything, would be done over this HIPAA violation because the doctor can easily say it was a misunderstanding, but she's already shown you she doesn't have respect for you or the law, so drop her. And as I said, I was probably totally wrong and said I would talk to the doctor rather than report. Yes, I know, don't get my back about it, please. But now I turn it to you guys. What would you guys do in this situation? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for Story 3. Story 4, am I the asshole for not telling my fiancé my father is not actually dead? This is a throwaway because my friends use Reddit and I don't want them to know. When I, 29 female, was younger, my parents divorced, and my father was a really shitty father. He would sue my mom for literally any reason. He would insult her in front of me and my younger sister and would do things like that. When I was a teenager, he signed an agreement in court that said he doesn't want to have regular meetings with me, ever. No Christmas, Easters, holidays, and no weekends. I blocked him everywhere and told my sister to do the same thing because I could see she was hurt by the situation. It took me 3 years of therapy to get over the situation and get out of depression. I basically forgot about him. Now I'm engaged to a truly great man, 31 male, whom I love more than anything in the world. He knows what my father did to me and my family and that I was in therapy because of him. Once, in a conversation about my father, when I was already visibly very upset, I made a mistake saying that my father is dead. I don't ever want to talk about him. My fiancé felt really bad for me. We haven't spoken about my father ever since. I had no contact with my father whatsoever, so it didn't make much of a difference until last week. My father contacted me after 13 years of no contact. He found me on Facebook, even though I blocked him on every social media platform. He asked me to meet up since he was in my hometown. He said he misses me, obvious lie, and I know it is, because of reasons I don't want to say on Reddit, and wants to catch up. I was honestly shaken up when he reached out because our last conversation was how he blamed me for his lawsuit against my mum. This is a long story for another post. I left my phone on the counter and left to my backyard to catch some fresh air. When I came back, my fiancé was sitting by the table with my phone in his hand. He asked me if the guy who texted me is my dad. I froze. He asked again, and I repeatedly started apologizing. My fiancé didn't want to listen to any of this. He was mad that I lied to him, accused me of hiding more things, and when I just sat there and cried, he took his car keys and left. I was crying for the whole day because I was sure he was going to leave me. He came back later in the evening, saying he's going to his brother's because he needs to think about it. He's still there. I know I'm the asshole here because I lied to him, but honestly, I don't understand why. In my opinion, it's kind of none of his business. I have no contact with my father, and I'm not going to meet up with him. Last time we talked was 13 years ago, and I had no idea where he lived or what he was doing. So, Reddit. Am I the asshole? Okay, I feel like I have to add some more information. My father knows my 3 email addresses, my home address, my phone number, etc. I only blocked him on social media, but you still have plenty of ways to contact me. Again, I think we're faced with one of these typical, everyone sucks here stories. I know OP, it's a gentle you're the asshole for OP, just simply because she's obviously traumatized by what her father did. And her father is pretty much dead to her. So you can see why she doesn't want to talk about it, and she'd rather just say, look, he's dead. I don't have nothing to do with him no more. But you know, it's still a lie. So you're still lying to your partner, who may be your husband at some point, that you're lying to. And if you love him, as you quote, more than anything in the world, you could just let him know about what happened. But I understand as well it's a very traumatic thing for you. And then for the boyfriend to actually, get so hurt about it, I know it's a lie. But to get so hurt about it that he's going to leave the house and thinking about leaving her because of this, it just screams at me that he's expecting more issues. To pick up your phone and start reading the messages, expecting maybe something else, I don't know. I'm just throwing that one out there. If OP was to explain to the husband, yeah, and just say, like I said at the start, he's dead to me. That's why I just didn't want to talk about it. It's too traumatic. The boyfriend should understand that, in my opinion. I would understand that. I don't think it takes very much compassion to understand that. I know it's a lie, but, you can understand why OP would be upset about this. But let's have a look at the comments below to see what they say. Deadrunner says, everyone sucks here. Yeah, you should have been more honest about your father, but let's not gloss over what your fiancé just did. They snooped through your phone, which, granted, I don't know if that's normal for you two, but in my mind, that's not okay. And rather than get an explanation, they have a temper tantrum and leave. Open communication is very important if you're planning on linking your lives together, and that goes both ways here. Webby Vanderquack says, you're the asshole a little bit. Both for not being honest with your fiancé and for saying, in my opinion, it's kind of none of his business. He's about to become your family, and your family is his business. Even if your family is emotionally dead to you. Just a friendly heads up, there's only one E in fiancé if it's a dude. PV Key says, you're the asshole. In the moment, you're upset, and you lied. Whatever. But you should have corrected your statement after you calmed down and told him you didn't want to talk about him anymore. Instead, you lied to your partner and kept that lie for years, and would have continued lying if he hadn't found out. That's a big red flag, and I too would be wondering what else you lied about. You don't get to pull the none of your business card to excuse your wrongful actions, especially to someone who's planning to marry you. Spiketail Turtle says, you're the asshole. He's going to marry you and you lie to him? This is his business. that he obviously can't trust you. If you can't be honest with the person you're marrying, then you have no business getting married. Single Pastry Sheaf Life says, "You're the asshole. I get where you're coming from. My boyfriend has been no contact with his brother since he was 15. It's not my place to say on what relationship with his brother is like. That's none of my business. It's one thing to tell your fiancé your dad was terrible and it's dead to you, but you told the man you want to marry that your father is dead, for crying out loud, and let him believe that for a long time. Can you blame him for wanting time away to process this and wondering if you're ready for marriage? I would too. Pump the brakes and slow things down. You believing that your family story is none of fiancé's business is an orange flag for your relationship. If you can't be open and honest with your spouse about your family, take a step back and think about resuming therapy. Now, what do you guys think of this story? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 4. Once again, guys, as always, thank you for being here today. It is always truly appreciated for you to take the time out of your day to come here. Listen to me talk absolute trash. I love you for it, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. I hope you have a great day now. Much love. Bye. You.